All right. All right, let's do that one more time. Derek, give me something.
Something.
Perfect. Jerry, same thing.
Something.
Boz, one more time for you.
Hello, everybody.
And Gary, one more time for you.
Something.
Perfect. All right, guys. It looks like we're ready to go on our end. We are going to pause very briefly and then come back with the real show. So thanks for joining us. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back with the official list of legends. I am Bo Ransdell. I am the editor-in-chief for Legion Podcasts. And what happens is people all the time will come up to me and they'll say to me, what are the best movies of this category? What are the best vampire movies? What are the best gateway horror movies? I got tired of trying to come up with a list off the top of my head. If you are watching this, you're probably a horror fan as well, and you have people in your life, loved ones, who might ask you these questions. And we wanted to gather a panel of experts, and just once and for all, let's settle the issue. So we are going to assemble a list of the 20 best gateway horror movies. And with me to do that, we have Derek, a.k.a. the Big French Connection. Also, I would point out, what, Gangs of Hollywood podcast. What else? What, Derek, pimp yourself.
Well, I guessed it on Gangs of Hollywood. That's the witches show, Bo. I did Cinema Attack, Celluloid Dissections previously. No More Room in Hell. I also do guest spot on my next person that you're going to announce is other show, Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space. I'm all over the place. They're Here podcast. I do a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, in addition to that, the man he mentioned, a compatriot from Kill the Cast, Jerry Herring.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Excellent. Also, legendary, really. And if you doubt that, just look at this beard. It's Boz from a multitude of shows that he has driven into the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of specialty now. If you want to crash your podcast, have me guest, and that's it. 2 more weeks, it's gone. Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
And I just say my beard doesn't deserve a mention in the presence of yours and Gary's. I'm sorry, it's not even on the page.
Look, Gary Hill from Cinema Beef, 2 Drink Minimum. Gary, you do have a magnificent beard. All your hair has migrated to north or south of your nose.
Well, it happens, and I stroke it when I'm feeling diabolical. That's really what it's there for,
All right, and then the final member, you may notice there is a blank spot on your screen, and that is for you folks in the chat to suggest movies. So the idea is we will round robin this, and everyone will make a suggestion. We are going to build this list in real time. When we come to the 20th film, we will have a concrete list of the 20 best gateway horror movies. As always, we ask that you do not indulge in wagering, although if you do, make sure it is blood debts. So,
yeah.
Let's
I'll put that away then.
Let's get this started. And folks, Derek, what is
the
first best gateway horror film?
Well, I wanted to get this one on the list because I think this one's not really talked about, especially with this director's later day work. And usually, because the first half of his work is usually more talked about, but no one really talks about this one. It's more of a kids horror movie. It's Tim Burton's Frankenweenie. I think it's one of the better day later Tim Burton movies in that sense, where he doesn't stop motion before, but this one's kind of back to early Tim Burton with the style of filmmaking. It has a very Edward Scissorhands approach with like the community of the small town. The Victor character has lost his pet. It has kind of like that Frankenstein core narrative there inside the story. Plus, after Sparky comes back to life, then it becomes a fun love letter to everything I loved growing up. There's a giant fire-breathing turtle. Tim Burton's a Gamera fan. That's amazing. They had the little thing that maybe another movie that's going to be on the list a lot higher than this one too. It has a shout out to a certain movie that might be mentioned tonight. I don't want to say just in case it is. And I just love the voice cast. You got Catherine O'Hara, Martin Short, Winona Ryder. It's fun Tim Burton, and it's back to like his roots, and I like that about it.
All right. As of this moment, Frankenweenie, the single greatest gateway horror film of all time. Jerry, can't come with the fire. Can you unseat Frankenweenie?
Yes, easily. So when I was making this list, I made a whole list, and then I was like, no, this is stuff that I particularly like, and I threw that list away and restarted a list that was more aimed towards as wide of audience as I could. And the first one I'm going with is actually Cabin in the Woods.
Ooh,
at first,
all right.
You may think, whoa, no, too much horror knowledge is needed for this movie. But no, the movie is very enjoyable without any of it. And it will then pique your interest to be like, oh, I want to know where this Cenobite looking dude came from, or this werewolf style came from, or redneck zombies from outer space, or whatever you will. I think it's a good one to kind of show a wide spectrum of horror while still being a very entertaining movie that's very fun and has well-known people.
All right.
Cool.
How do we feel about this panel? Cabin in the Woods.
I damn near picked that myself, and for many of the same reasons. But if you want to like get the horror tropes into someone's head, it's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, good shout.
All right. I would argue Cabin in the Woods is better than Frankenweenie. Does anyone?
I agree. It's a better movie.
All right.
For the more traditional horror fan, but I get you.
All right.
I'm good. I'm cool with it.
Let's put. There we go. Cabin in the Woods, Frankenweenie. Boz, what is our third film?
Right. So you say gateway horror, so you got to pick your approach to this. And I figured, stuff like Gremlins comes up, and are we talking kids or people who are going to be sensitive to stuff? And I thought, you know what? I like modern horror more than the classics, but also I like things quite extreme. And what made me a horror fan was having the shit scared out of me when I saw stuff way younger than I should have done. So my list is largely films that you can watch to shock you into loving horror. That said, I am going with an old one because the film that first did that to me was American Werewolf in London. I think it's one of the ultimate horror films of all time.
Ooh.
And has a lot of tropes in there. Plus, it's funny.
Yeah, I think that's, to me, that's one of the biggest selling points of that movie is that you can sell it to people because it's not that hardcore. It's really funny. And it's kind of, hey, here's a horror movie directed by the guy who did the Blues Brothers. How bad could it be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like this approach because this is something we didn't necessarily talk about. In fact, I kind of discouraged discussion before the show about what gateway horror means. And I think it kind of can mean lots of things. And I agree with both approaches of here is a movie that's kind of the softball pitch to get young people and the normies into horror movies. But I also like the ones that are like, no. If you want to get into horror, like this is the thing that'll like it's that hit you take behind the building that gets you hooked on it.
Yeah.
Maybe talking too much from personal experience, but like anybody else have serious thoughts about American Werewolf in London?
I'm not a huge fan of the movie. It's a good movie and everything. It's just never really worked for me. But I do think it's a good way to get someone. Anytime you can use comedy to offset the horror,
Yeah.
it's going to make it easier to get someone into horror.
Okay. I agree with that. So, if no one else has any passionate feelings one way or the other, I feel like we should go about the ranking of An American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, straight to the top, please.
No, I'd put it above Frankenweenie, but not above Cabin in the Woods. I think Cabin in the Woods is more digestible.
Controversial.
Yeah. All right. So I'm probably of the mind that I probably would agree with that for different reasons. I think Cabin in the Woods is a little more palatable than An American Werewolf in London, because American Werewolf in London is still like that transformation sequence. Like that's going to make a mom turn the movie off. Like she's not going to be prepared for that. But Cabin in the Woods, maybe making out with the deer, maybe you learn something about mom.
Yeah.
Well, that and Jenny Agutter boob. Make sure you make your mom turn it off. You know, but that's another story.
Yeah, well, there's tits in both movies though, so we
This
can
is
just
true.
cross that one out.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, I'm kind of like, I would put American Werewolf in between Cabin in the Woods and Frankenweenie, but I am also open to, like, I understand Boz saying all the way at the top as well. Like anybody else saying this should be the top of the list.
Well, I mean, is it a better movie or is it a better gateway movie? What's your criteria?
I think it's gateway movie is the criteria, and I think
Exactly.
I still think Cabin in the Woods is the better gateway movie, only because it's like, hey, there's Thor.
That's true. And it's not like the Dr. Pepper guy. I'm a pepper, you're a pepper.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably the girl that was in that did something too that people would recognize. And I don't know that there's that many David Naughton and Jenny Agutter fans at this point that are like, well,
besides me and Baz.
Look, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that your average Joe on the street, your average Boz on the street might not be like, you know who I love, Jenny Agutter. Have you seen Walkabout?
Oh yeah.
They showed us that in school.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane. Why would they show
I
you
know,
that?
right?
Oh my goodness.
I'd make a play for American Werewolf in London to go above Cabin in the Woods, not because I like one over the other one. It's just as far as like you watching Cabin in the Woods, you might sit there with that person, have to explain, if they've never seen a horror film ever in their life, what the harbinger means and what all that stuff means, and not in the sense that that's a bad thing, because it's right there, it's laid out for you. But you're layman, first time horror watcher, they kind of know what a werewolf is and what kills a werewolf. So you got this film that I'm not the hugest fan of either, but I recognize what it does with the humor and the lore and all that stuff with the werewolf. And I think as far as you pick gateway, not better film, but it's a gateway film, I think it's above Cabin in the Woods.
Was that 2 and 2?
I'm starting to come around on this. That after Gary was like, you know what? It's just a werewolf movie. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It is just a werewolf movie. That's pretty mainstream.
Yeah.
Or in terms of appreciating the movie, because I do think there are things about Cabin in the Woods it's certainly a good gateway horror movie, but I also do think that there are a lot of in jokes that make that movie a lot better.
Cabin in the Woods does have a girl making out with a wolf head, though.
It does, but An American Werewolf in London has a lady making out with a whole wolf.
But
That's
here's
true.
the thing. You want to talk gateway. What's more gateway than literally going, oh, I can show you what this is reference to. We can watch this movie next.
Yeah. I'm
That's true.
coming around. I'm in the American Werewolf at the top camp now. Who stands against us?
I mean, I do.
I know you do. Anybody else?
I'm okay either way. it's gonna be like 2 against 3 or 3 against 1 anyway. So
All right.
I'm gonna team Jerry, but
All right, well, here's what happens then. American Werewolf in London, Cabin in the Woods, Frankenweenie are top 3 for the moment. It's a long way to go. But I like an early controversy. Gary.
Like I didn't throw my whole list up, but I changed this list into their positions about 25 times by now. So there's a lot of scratches on this piece of paper. A little scrap of paper. I'm not even going to show it to you, but I'm looking at it right now. My number 10 is Fido. If you ever seen that before, could be a first time watch for you, or a first time watch for your 10 or 12-year-old person that might like horror. And I think the gore's there, and it's the tameness is kind of there. The only really questionable thing is Tim Blake Nelson's obsession with his zombie girlfriend. But besides that, it's wholesome and gory at the same time. If you haven't seen it, this is a world where zombies occupy the earth, but they wear collars to make them do subservient jobs. And one boy gets a zombie, first zombie ever, I guess, just to play with, and his collar malfunctions, and he does stuff like eat his bullies and fun stuff like that. Played by Billy Connolly, and played well.
Mm-hmm.
Fido, just discuss. I'm sorry.
No, it's a solid pick. Anybody got any passionate thoughts on Fido?
Oh, it's been years since I've seen that one. I remember liking it. I just love the whole idea that they have head funerals in that movie, from what I remember.
Yeah, it didn't leave a massive impression on me either. But I'd probably sneak it above Frankenweenie, I think.
I'm kind of in the same camp. I think that this is a Frankenweenie at the bottom Fido situation.
Yeah, I can see that.
I would rather watch Frankenweenie than Fido, just because I like Fido. I remember watching it, but I also remember going, okay, well, that was a movie. Like it not that it was good or bad, or it was just kind of afterwards. I was just kind of like, whatever. And then I just put on a video of Bo's cat instead.
That's fair. I agree. Yeah. That's fair.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. It's all subjective. I understand that.
Yep, there we go. There's our list again. Let's see.
I leave where it found you, isn't it?
Let's see. I'm trying to move Fido. There we go. There it is. So Fido. Yeah, I think I that feels right to me. Frankenweenie is, I like it on this list, but I like Fido above it. Anybody else feel like?
I agree. No, I agree. I knew Frankenweenie's just really for the more kid. I have a mixture of things. My next one's going to be a banger, though, so we're going to get into it when I get into it. But yeah, I agree. Fido above Frankenweenie.
All right. You know what? So it is my turn next. And then if there are good suggestions in the chat, we will give the chat a round. Because I've seen a couple of movies get mentioned, but I want to see something concrete in chat before we announce. I
don't know. Gogsy's in the chat, so I can't imagine anything good will come up. So that's my co-host from A Little Pot of Horrors, just to.
So here is. I'm kind of going the Boz route a little bit here. I think the original Night of the Living Dead is my first pick here, and the reason is because I think it's, by today's standards, you might even say it's quaint, but I think it still kind of packs a wallop. I think it is the springboard from which so much horror has kind of flowed into the culture. To mix metaphors there, I think it's incredibly significant as a movie, and I think it's one of those that you kind of want to watch. And I also think it's one that once you've seen it, you kind of never forget that you've seen Night of the Living Dead. You know, I think it's still like scary and resonant enough in my mind.
It's definitely the most accessible movie of the list but because it's public domain, so you get a copy of it anywhere.
Right.
It's,
I've probably
Yeah,
got 4 or 5 on my hard drive. Yeah.
Yeah, like every other horror movie, it's in.
yeah. Yeah, it's on TV and most horror movies. If you buy multi-packs, it's usually on there,
I'm going to check YouTube. Someone must have done a supercut of every movie that ever put that in the background somewhere. Or just the line, "They're coming to get you, Barbara."
It's true.
Right. And this led to one of my rules of filmmaking, which is just because you can doesn't mean you should. Also, don't put a better movie into your shitty movie, because all I want to do
Oh,
is watch Night of the Living Dead and not the shitty movie that you're making.
I
I'm
have
like,
to disagree in one point, and I'll tell you why.
all right.
Jim Wynorski's 976 Evil 2 does a clash of Night of the Living Dead and It's a Wonderful Life, and it's fucking magical. Susie the F word, but which I say Wynorski and magical, except for Chopping Mall in the same sentence. But Chopping Mall is a movie that I love.
Hey, I mean, you do it enough times, eventually you're just gonna fall ass backwards into making a pretty decent movie. Just by sheer happenstance is my argument.
There's always an exception to the rule also. But on the top of Night of the Living Dead, I feel like this works with getting an older person into horror. Though at the same time, it's kind of like, how have you not seen this? But if getting an older person into horror, absolutely. Getting a younger person into horror, probably not. But we do need to have that movie that can get that older person into horror. And for whatever reason, they haven't been in the 30, 40 years they've been alive.
How dare you call it grandpa horror? Just to answer the question from the chat, yes, make your suggestions right now if you would like to be included in round 1. Where do you guys feel like it lands on our list? I'll tell you, I'm of the mind that it's kind of in between Cabin in the Woods and Fido, but that may be too high for some of you guys.
No, I agree with you.
So
that's a good spot. Yeah.
Or it should
I
be.
agree.
All right. There we go. Okay. There are some suggestions from chat. I'm going to moderate this somewhat. What about I'm going to take one from Scott. What about Trick or Treat?
Oh, so nearly made my list.
Which one?
I think we're talking about the
Oh, no.
anthology.
Yes, not the first one. God.
Right, not
Sammy Kerr.
no.
That would actively scare some people away.
Sammy Kerr forever, baby. Sammy Kerr forever.
Fast
This
way.
is horror.
I am using a Trick or Treat coffee cup, so I guess I have to agree.
Yeah. Like the thing about Trick or Treat, like that's the movie I show to my friends on Halloween who aren't necessarily big horror fans, because it's sort of like every Halloween movie. But it like that's like to me that's always been the magic trick of Trick or Treat, is as soon as you watch it, you feel like you have watched that every Halloween for since you were a kid. And so I think that in that way I kind of agree. I think it's sort of like a great gateway movie, because watching it makes you feel kind of like you're in on the joke with horror movies and that kind of thing. So I think that's a solid pick. What do you guys think?
And it's not like it has fun anthology, and I like how it's intertwined with the stories instead of like your typical anthology. It's kind of unique in that sense too, where it's an anthology film, but it's not like a real, and you know what I mean. It's not edited like a normal anthology film,
Right.
in that sense. It has its own merit, and it's kind of different, and it has the Halloween atmosphere. It's a good movie to watch on Halloween and get people into that Halloween spirit who usually don't watch those type of movies. I have no problem with it being on the list.
All
Plus,
right.
if we pick this now, we don't have to listen to him when he says Gremlins, so we can stop Scott's joy for the day now.
Okay, so where do we feel Trick or Treat belongs on this list? Is it
I'd put it at number 2.
So would I.
Number 2. Wow. All right.
I was gonna put it at number 3.
All right. What about you, Gary? How do you feel about this?
Yeah, drop it to number 3 with Jerry. I'd agree there because it's a great film. It's a great, like if I had a group of people in my house and they don't watch this stuff normally, yeah, I would turn that on because there's enough gore, there's enough, horror stuff in there. And there's also enough for them to pay attention to as far as like getting into the story because they're all connected in their own special way. And in the end, you get a complete story. I can say that about many, many films that I'm just going to turn this on at a party, like Trick or Treat. I'm going to turn on Black Roses at my next party just because I want to.
It's right because you're a maniac, and then everyone would
Well,
leave. What? So are we saying again as we rank this in real time? Cabin in the Woods is a better gateway horror film than Trick or Treat.
Yeah, it's got Thor.
It's got Thor. It does have Thor.
Thor and the themes of it has a lot more landscape to explore in the world of horror.
Plus, it's got Richard Jenkins. He's a national treasure.
Man, you're not wrong about that. All right, on Richard Jenkins alone, Cabin in the Woods, number 2, Trick or Treat, our new number 3 best gateway horror films of all time. Okay. Let's then go back to Derek. I believe you said you were bringing some thunder here.
I am, because there's a subgenre of horror that usually a lot of people like, I want to get into some Italian horror. Where should I start? And there's one movie that I always recommend them, and that is Lamberto Bava's Demons from 1985. And, it's the most accessible Italian horror movie, in my opinion, because it has that heavy metal soundtrack. It has that thunder. It's fun. It's not really, it's kind of easy to follow. You have like this group of people in a movie theater and they start becoming demons and shit. It's fun. It has the gore, the kills. It has got fucking Motley Crue, Billy Idol. It's got cocaine and a Coca-Cola can,
And a motorbike.
It's got a motorbike with a samurai sword.
Yeah, a katana,
and a samurai sword.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
No, you're not wrong about any of that.
Talking my language.
It's got a fucking helicopter crash. It's got Michelle Suave with a fucking half metal face. And it's got this great post-apocalyptic ending that gets you going. And, it's just metal. It just rocks. And, if somebody wanted to watch an Italian horror movie, that's the first one I would show them to get them into Italian horror.
Let me play devil's advocate for one moment, if I may. The plot of Demons is nonsense.
So is in most Italian horror movies.
I totally agree with you. I'm just saying that is my one argument against Demons, because like I think everyone here, Demons rocks.
Here's the thing, Bo.
Yes.
Sometimes, and there's a movie I almost put on my list to do the same concept. Sometimes you have to throw someone in the deep end let them learn to swim. And in horror, Demons would be a good way. If someone's like, I want to watch a horror movie, give me something like, just give me something out there. And you're like, all right, bitch, Demons.
Yes.
That's my whole list. That's the philosophy there.
Plus, there's some actual scenes that scared me when I watched the fucking 10, like the whole scene in the vent with the girl and the boyfriend, and then she just becomes a demon out of nowhere because she wasn't a demon like 5 seconds earlier, and it's like, holy shit! And like that whole scene where the girl's just transforming and her teeth were falling out. I feel that in my pain when I'm watching it.
Yeah. So if it's gonna be on the list, I do think you have to put it low on the list. Just because I think you're getting into the rare times of someone being like, all right, let's watch a horror movie, just straight fuck me up.
All right, so I think we all agree Demons is a great entry point into a specific kind of horror. Where do we think it falls on this list?
Above Frankenweenie.
At the very bottom.
Like
I'm putting number 5, I would say.
Oops. So if I moved it You say number 5, like below Night of the Living Dead, above Fido and Frankenweenie?
Yeah.
I kind of like that. How do you guys
Yeah.
feel about this?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's where I'm at too. Yeah, above Fido and Frankenweenie.
Okay. All right. So, let's take our turn into the top 10. All right. I believe Boz, you were next.
Oh, there's Jerry next.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Jerry, I'm so sorry.
So when making this list, I picked 2 movies, and I knew one of them would represent this, but I wanted to pick something that would get more girls into horror. Obviously, girls are into horror, but I feel like there's always too many guys. Look at this fucking video. And we need more women in horror. And I was like, what is a good movie to get a young teenage girl into horror? And the obvious choice for me was Tragedy Girls.
Oh,
It
yeah.
speaks directly to a TikTok using girl right now.
Mhm.
So I would love to use that to bring them into horror. It's funny, it's hip, it's got 2 great female leads. It's a really fun story, and it brings in, like kind of the social media of it. So I present to this panel Tragedy Girls.
That's a strong pick.
Yeah. I didn't even consider it, but I agree with everything you said. I think Tragedy Girls is a great modern horror film. I think it speaks to a lot of social media stuff. In the same breath, I would also mention a movie like Patchwork, which isn't quite the same kind of movie, but it kind of exists in the same space in my head.
Same director, yeah.
The other movie that was in this was Ginger Snaps, but since we already have a werewolf movie on the list, and Tragedy Girls is a bit more modern,
Yeah, it's more
I think ultimately it's the better choice.
Yeah.
All right. Where does it fall on this list?
It's gotta I would put it it's gotta be at least in the top 4, if not top 3.
I'm thinking 3, push the rest down.
Over Trick or Treat, you think?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
again,
I think
I'm
it's
not-
more accessible,
All right.
modern wise.
What do you guys?
What's it-
Anybody
It
else?
does have the chick from Deadpool in it.
It does have the chick from Deadpool, and it's got that fantastic scene in the weight room. That's really funny.
And a couple of the best other horror film nods for the fans I've seen in quite a few years. So-
Yeah.
it-
All right.
I would just put it at number 2 for Kevin Durant, but that's just me.
I like number 3. I think 3 feels. I think that's a great number 3 for me. Anybody? I see the number 2 argument, but anybody else fighting for number 2?
No,
Keeping it
I
three.
mean,
I'm sorry.
I think American Werewolf in London should be number 3,
Look,
and we boost those 2 up. But hey, you grandpa guys have
Listen.
chosen.
we will relitigate.
I'm
this.
only a few years older than you, Jerry. Call me Grandpa.
You were on my side, Derek. I'm talking
know.
about the people who can grow facial hair, not you and I.
I'm like, what do you mean, you people?
All right. All right, Boz.
Oh man, this is tough now. I'm sticking with my thing of like, this isn't what your mum will ingratiate to because you're watching it and she's standing behind you. This is your mate gave you a dodgy VHS with nothing written on it at school. You snuck home before your parents got home from work and you sat on the sofa, half watching the screen, half looking out the window so you can quickly eject it when they get home. Not that that's how my horror career started.
Mhm.
So I'm going to have to go with The Thing.
Oh,
In at the deep end, because even today, if you throw that on for someone, so let's say, okay, mainly I'm aiming at adults. Okay, so my choices are all discounting under 18s. That's just a given. But people often say to me, "What films can you recommend to start?" And I'm like, well, even if gore is a bit much, because the effects have dated a bit, but they're still fucking incredible for how they were done and when they were done. I think it stands up on its own still, and would make you love just the concept of prosthetics and where horror could take you further, you know?
Well, this is a battle for me. It's like in my top 5 favorite movies of all time, but how accessible is it? But then again, we have American Werewolf in London and Demons on this list, so you can kind of use the argument of how to get the more adult people into horror. So, and you can't go wrong with Kurt Russell and Diabetes.
Oh, damn it.
Man, Wilford Brimley has one of my favorite lines in any movie ever when they come out to check on him, and he says, "I'm all right. I want to come inside." And you're like, there is absolutely no way you are coming inside with the rest of us. You are a crazy person.
I'm fine now.
Yeah, the noose hanging from the rafters suggests otherwise. Terrific movie. It's one of my... Catch Me the Right Day, it's the best movie I ever saw.
Well, it was this or Twilight, so this one out.
Oh, God.
Oh,
no. Twilight's just terrifying just to think about.
That is
that.
a tough pick. So here is my concern, again, playing devil's advocate. My concern with the thing is also, on the one hand, it could be like me, and it sounds like Boz, where you saw the thing and you were like, I never want to watch any other kind of movie again. But you could also watch the thing as a kid and be like, there's never going to be enough therapy for the kinds of feelings I'm having right now.
Yeah, and that's how I made my list. Fuck those people.
Yeah, Boz woke up, made his list, and said, "Fuck them kids."
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay,
And I support that. This list needs to represent, how do you get kids in here? How do you get teenage girls in here? How do you get old dudes in here? How do you, you got to have a facet to hit every single one. And even though I think we already have 2 movies on here that already represent how to get the old dudes in here, the thing is better than those 2 movies, so it's kind of hard to deny it.
Plus, it could get people into other isolation horror.
Yeah, or if someone's super into sci-fi and you're like, oh, you really like sci-fi and aliens, well, check out The Thing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right.
Number one. Bounce it up.
I just don't. I don't think we should have movies that are accessible and mainly for one crowd at number 1 is my issue here.
Number 2.
But I don't want the top couple of movies to just represent our favorite movies as old white dudes.
Sure. No, I'm with you. I feel like The Thing is more like a number 5.
Yes.
Just because of the fact that it's a bit extreme.
Now, if you want to put it at number 5 and then exchange it and American Werewolf in the list, I'm down for that, Boz.
As I'm looking at it, if somebody that wasn't into horror came to me, when I look at that list, I would go Trick or Treat over The Thing. If I'm watching a movie for me, I would go The Thing all the time.
Yeah, because it's not going to be everyone's boat either. I could see that.
All right. I'm going to move it up to 5, and then everyone can live with that for a second, and I will, if we feel like we need to revisit that, we can, but that looks right to me. All right. Gary.
Mine had, I don't know if this is against the rules or not, but a change to the list because I was inspired all of a sudden. Take one movie off that Bo hates, and both, I think a big bonus of that movie is, and actually that I think is good for the whole family and all walks of life. Again,
the Holocaust?
Oh, well, that too, yeah, but still, that's not my pick.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like Boz said, one of those things that a friend said, here, watch this delightful piece of cinema. One of the first Asian films I saw, like a modern Asian film, was Versus, and I think it needs an introduction. It's a zombie film. It has samurai elements in it. It's a gangster film. I'm gonna throw it up there because it's fun as hell, and anybody I ever show it to loves it. They don't know what the fuck's going on most of the time, but they love it. So I'm gonna throw Versus up there for adults and children of all ages.
It makes me smile that Ryo Kitamura is on this list.
Yeah, I understand where Gary's head is at on this, but I also think Versus is one of the least likely suspects when I think about recommending a movie to somebody because
One
it's
hu-
so fucking weird.
Yeah, there were a lot of Japanese movies I wanted to put on the list. I had to discount all of them because they're just not as accessible.
Right. Here's Hausu. Enjoy.
Yeah,
Take
here's Suicide
Hausu.
Club. Here's Meatball Machine. You know, it just
Right.
doesn't really work.
Well, I couldn't suggest the one I was going to put on the list because
Oh,
Bo refuses to watch it because I wanted zombie ass Toilet of the Undead.
Oh, I
It's
love that
really
movie.
accessible.
I
It's
have
really
spectacular.
accessible.
I have not only not refused to watch that, I have seen that now.
Oh, you have?
I
Okay.
have.
He has a poster
end
of it in his
sequence-
bathroom.
Naburo, I have that on DVD. I love that movie.
Look, I'm slowly collecting my list of Japanese splatter director Facebook friends. Yoshihiro Nishimura and I are Facebook friends now.
He's my Facebook friend too. I
And
love
he is indiscriminate, and that's what I like about Yoshihiro Nishimura. But that's not gateway horror. And I argue versus also not. Look, obviously, once an item is on the list, it's on the list. But I mean, I don't know that I'm gonna like argue for it being high on this list.
I'm not saying it's the best thing you'll see all day, but you know what? It's one of those films that you turn on, and I've done this at different parties. It's like, hey, check this out, and they're like, "What the hell am I watching?"
Right.
And,
That's, that's
and
the
then
thing.
I can't stop watching it.
Yeah.
This is the attitude I get from everybody about Versus. So this is why I put Versus on the list, because it's not that dirty. You know, it's for your smaller crowd. It's just like chopsocky gore and violence and crappy looking zombies. You know, if I showed them Wild Zero, I have to explain a little more things to them about what the plot of Wild Zero and why the boy loves the boy and yada yada yada. This has none of that because it doesn't make any freaking sense, and this is why I love it so much. And why people I've shown it to have loved it, because it's just turn your brain off and watch this stupid movie that people love, and I love it. You know, so.
I love it too, and I can't recommend it to everyone. That's the thing. I can't just be like, "What's a movie I should watch?" Watch Versus, and you know they're like, "What the fuck did you make me do?" You know,
No, that's
the
one of
only
those.
problem.
That's one of those. Sit in the room with them and watch it with them and look at their reaction.
Yeah, but sometimes you can't do that, Gary. Especially during these times.
This is why I break out Female Trouble at Christmas time, just to see people's reactions. It's wonderful. You know.
I think, Gary, we're gonna have a talk offline about appropriate movies for friends and loved ones.
Children, go watch Female Trouble. It's amazing.
I mean, I can't say, speaking at like movies people put on party. I was at a party once where someone put on Guinea Pig Flesh of Flower and Blood, or Flower of Flesh and Blood, whatever it's called. So I can see why someone put on Versus. It's a better choice than that. But at the same time, Troll 2 was always an option. I don't know why that wasn't picked.
I don't understand what fucking fight clubs you guys are going to on the weekends where you're just throwing
Hey.
on Versus and Guinea Pig and
Troll 2 is always
Serbian
an option. I don't-
film.
I don't wanna
Right.
hear anything else about it.
you guys
Who
are
wants to go to the
maniacs.
Serbian film watch party?
All right, where does this belong on the list?
I
how do
love
we-
the movie, but I think it should be the bottom.
It's low. Yeah, I understand that.
I was going to say, I can't disagree with anything Gary said about it, but it doesn't move.
All right,
Put it low. It was mentioned. That's all I'll say about
all right.
that.
I think Boz is right there. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed, the top 10 best gateway horror movies of all time, from the bottom: Versus, Frankenweenie, Fido, Demons, Night of the Living Dead, The Thing, Trick or Treat, Tragedy Girls, Cabin in the Woods, An American Werewolf in London, your greatest gateway horror film of all time at present. But that is right before a new round begins, and we are going to begin with one from the chat that I think is compelling. Lacey suggests Creepshow. And not only did she suggest that, Ken in chat said that he actually got to tell George Romero in person, this was my gateway horror film.
Wow.
So I like, what more argument do you need from our chat for a gateway horror film? So how do we feel about Creepshow on this list?
I think it's a little dated at this point, but I do think because it's multi-segmented, there could be something for multiple different types of people, so that can
Yeah.
always be a plus. But I do think at this point it's a little slow. It's going to be a little bit harder to get new fans in to watch that. And I think that's one of the problems that my first list had, where I was like, okay, no, I looked at this as being a horror fan for so long. If I had never seen a horror movie or seen very few and sat down to watch horror movies now, certain movies that are even on this list now are going to make it for older horror fans, but getting newer horror fans, it doesn't work as well. That's why I had to scrap a whole list of 15 movies, because trying to not look at this from a person who loves horror classics, know that this is Creepshow is a fan-fucking-tastic movie, but is it going to play to a new audience quite as well? Or is this like round 2 or 3 of after they've watched a couple of horror movies and get the idea?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jerry there, because we actually know a few people that don't like Creepshow as much as a lot of us do. You know, in that sense, where they watched it for like the first time, like, yeah, it wasn't great. Like their favorites. It's weird. Some people that we talk to, like, the thing what I say about it is it depends on what segment you start on, because you say if you're just scrolling for TV, because the first segment I ever seen at Creepshow was the fucking crate, and it was the scene where Adrian Barbeau gets sucked into the crate with the thing grabs her. I'm like, what the hell was that? I didn't know what it was for the longest time. And
yeah, and the crate's wonderful. Like, I love the crate. That's my favorite segment. But like when you're doing the old guy with the cockroaches, or you're doing the guy who buries the people under the sand and then they come back as zombies, while that segment's amazing, it's slow. While it has great tension, is that tension going to work for someone now? We have to keep in mind, we're showing this to people in 2021 who don't know horror. They don't know who George Romero is. They don't know who Stephen King is. They don't know who Tom Savini is.
Or
like we
or
have to
EC
understand
Comics, which is
that.
like,
Or EC Comics, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the movie is a direct reference to a thing that people really don't know that much about these days, which is criminal, but also understandable.
I can send them. There is a great 2-part video on the history of horror comics that is fantastic.
Yeah.
I will make more of a play for Creepshow 2 over Creepshow 1 as far as a gateway horror film goes. I think it's shorter. It's a lot quicker with the horror and the gags.
It's got George Kennedy. Kids love George Kennedy.
Kids love George Kennedy. But I'm not even shitting on Creepshow. I love Creepshow to death. But if I had to pick one for first time watch over the other one, to say, hey, just watch. I saw Creepshow 2 first before I saw the first one. It was the one that was at the video store. But that's got to do with my decision of saying that one is better than the other one, and 2 is not better than 1. It's not, as far as the cinematic, reach goes. But as far as like, here, watch a fun horror film that hits you with 3 fire stories, and then if you have a kid, they have the kid element because being chased by the bullies, and of course the massive Venus flytrap gag at the end, which I love. Creepshow 2, I think is better for a gateway horror than the first one, just because it's much faster paced, and that hair's gonna get him paid and laid, is all I'll say about that guy.
Yeah.
I'll go for the Shudder series then. No, I'm joking. I didn't finish that.
Where do we think it falls on this list?
Well, above Versus, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Above Versus, is it better than Frankenweenie?
Yeah.
I think the problem is right now I'm looking at this list. We have one movie that is really set for children. We can't keep pushing that down the list.
Yeah.
Like, we need that representation. But we have 4 movies for that are made 80s and older at this point?
Hey, keep your pants on.
Yeah, I got some more suggestions here. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm coming to. We have to again. It's not. How does Creepshow fit on the list as it stands? Not the list that we want.
Above Fido for me.
All right, above Fido. Anybody else?
I could agree with that.
Anybody?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that too. But go above Fido.
All right.
Because I think that plays the other older ones will play better.
Let me throw a little bit of dash of childhood and recent magic on this list. And say one of my favorite movies to recommend as like, hey, see if your kids like this, because if they do, there's all kinds of dark shit they're going to be into. Coraline, I think, is a terrific gateway
Henry
horror film.
Selick.
Yeah. And the button eye, like there's enough dark shit in that you're like, I before I recommend this to you, how old is your kid? Because if it's super young, it might really fuck them up. But if they're like 9 or 10, that's about the right age for something I think like Coraline that deals with things like losing parents and you know, loss and things like that, and it's kind of genuinely like creepy and weird.
Yeah,
That's a good shout.
it's a really good one.
Mm.
I thought somebody would bring that up. That's why I didn't put it on my list.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
I mean, I didn't pick it because there's not enough gore in it, but that's just me.
Eh.
No, it's but it's proper freaky and creepy, and that's horror. And you know, despite my ridiculous list, when I do talk to people and say, "Oh, I don't like horror," I'm like, I can name 3 films with no gore in that classify as horror that you could watch, and this would be one of them. It's a good pick.
It is.
Gorgeous film. A Disney level of depression going on in that movie that you gotta love, and yeah, creepy as shit, dark as shit, man. It's yeah, I love it. I think Leica hasn't made a bad film yet, so I put another film that I didn't. I'm kicking myself to put on the list, but you know, call it honorable mention. Paranorman is a better film to me, but you know, this is much darker than Paranorman.
Yeah, I like Paranorman as well, but I think Coraline is, you know, a little. There's something about it that resonates a little. It feels very, and it might be, but it feels very Roald Dahl kind of to me.
Which makes sense because he directed James and the Giant Peach.
yeah, for sure. Maybe that's why I make that association. But all right, so I'm the guy who picked Coraline. Where do you guys think Coraline belongs on the list?
Above Frankenweenie.
Yeah, I say it's a better movie. I watch Frankenweenie a little bit more, but Coraline is definitely the better made movie.
Above Fido, I'd say, for me.
Yeah, I'd probably sneak it above Demons between that. I don't know if I could have it trump Night of the Living Dead, but that might just be my own biases there.
What about you, Jerry? What do you say?
I've never seen it. Sadly, up until like a year ago, I thought it was a Tim Burton movie, so I didn't watch it because I don't really like Tim Burton movies.
Sure.
And then someone was like, "No, it's not a Tim Burton movie," and I was like, "Oh." But then I just never got around to watching it because I'm not a kid. I don't have kids. I'm rarely around children. So I've never had to watch it. I put on like Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island first. So I have no opinion whatsoever.
Oh.
All right.
I only watched it because I was told it was dark as fuck. That's why I watched it. So.
And they're right. It is. It's kind of a grim movie, and it's got some great "They Might Be Giants" music as well, which always
it's got "They Might Be
heart.
Giants." Put it at fucking at number 7.
Put it right there by the canary and the light switch.
Yeah, right next to the birdhouse in your soul. I got it.
That's the one.
All right. Well, Coraline is our only friend, but not our only friend. At number 7 right now, if anyone has any objections, speak now.
I'm fine with that. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, and Jerry, let me just say how disappointed I am. You were like, we need something new. We need something that appeals to everybody. I bring the thunder with it. And you're like, I ain't seen that.
But I'm going to back it as high as I can for the sake of representation. But I haven't seen it for me to make any argument. So until someone's like, where does it belong on the list? Then I have to kind of wait and figure out if everyone loves the movie and they love it, then I can be like, okay, representation, let's hike it up.
All right. I believe, Derek, it is now time for you to
Yeah.
add what may like just fair warning here as we're running through this. Oh, I'm sorry. We're at Boz. I apologize. No, wait. We are at Derek. I'm sorry. I got confused by our discussion that we were having with Jerry. This may be our last run through, depending if chat has a few picks. So as we go through this round, bring the heat. Don't sit on anything. If you want to see something on
I
this
might
list.
as well bring this up since it wasn't fucking mentioned yet. Fred Decker's The fucking Monster Squad.
All right.
It was on my list, Derek. I was with you. It was
You know, movie I seen real young. I still think the effects hold up. That creature from the Black Lagoon is still amazing to this day. Every time I watch it, Stan Winston, of course, did the effects, and it just brings. I think it's a good gateway if somebody who's like wants to see a Universal. Like, well, what is that? Who are these characters? You know, and you're like, those are the Universal monsters. You guys want to watch their movies after? You know. And it's like kids fighting the Universal monsters. It's a great gateway movie for like that middle, like even like there's a little few teenage kids in it too. So there's a few characters that people can relate to, and there's adult characters that people can relate to, because there's this background thing that's not really described in the movie, but it's there where the parents are having their scuffles and they're fighting a lot. Like Stephen Mack's a cop, and the chick from Lethal Weapon's like, I don't want you to go be a cop anymore. There's even some dark things with the scary German guy about the Holocaust. When we find out he was a Holocaust survivor, there's some things for adults in there too to appreciate, but there's stuff in there for kids too. And everything. I noticed the adult stuff more when I grow up with the movie, and I like that about that. Plus, Wolfman's got nards.
The title of a documentary at this point. Yeah.
That he does. I hope Harry wins. I'm just throwing it out there,
I need to see that doco because I've heard nothing but good about it, and I missed it at 2 festivals.
Son of a. I'm one of the few people that is not as crazy about the Monster Squad, but being a single guy and middle-aged, the number of times I have watched the Monster Squad with some lady I was dating's kids, that's like maybe double digits. So I 100% agree. Monster Squad is, I think, essential gateway horror in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I think any movies that one, have kids, 2, have a sense of adventure, are an easy movie to kind of throw. And when it comes to 80s movies that are on this list, this might be the most accessible of them, because it is fast, it is fun. It does kind of show you, much like Cabin in the Woods, hey, these are based off things that have already been, that have that horror movies, for you to be like, okay, you saw this, next we're going to watch, Creature from the Black Lagoon, because you said you really liked the Gill Man in this movie. So
yeah,
might be one of the best things ever. Apparently my USB just went out.
Well, we can still hear you though. So, what about the rest of you guys? Monster Squad, where does it land here?
It's high on my list, and for a lot of reasons. I have a lot of fun watching as an adult, and I know most adults I know like it. I'm not saying it's the best thing you'll see all week, but I can't go wrong with a Shane Black script and a Fred Dekker direction, and Tom Noonan's still my favorite Frankenstein's monster for a lot of reasons.
I still cry every time he goes in the black hole.
Oh,
It's
sad,
fucking
man.
so sad.
Have you guys not seen Clancy Brown and the Bride? It's like that movie never happened, and that's
Right.
one of the
I
greatest Frankenstein monsters ever.
No, I love Clancy Brown and the Bride. He's the best part of the movie. Unfortunately, Sting and Jennifer Beals ruined the movie.
Yeah, forget about that. But when he's with David Rappaport, like all of that stuff is gold. Yeah, the rest of it's garbage, but
Yeah,
that stuff is great.
where you still have like Wolfman and Dracula and fucking shit in the Monster Squad that keeps you entertained,
Yeah.
I will say from a child's point of view, the last time I watched the film was with a 4-year-old boy, and he was engaged. He asked a lot of questions because he's 4, like questions like, does Dracula need a driver's license? And I said, well, no, he's a bad guy. He doesn't need a driver's license. and the
I
part
can
where
fly.
well, exactly.
Yeah.
Plus,
And
he
the
he
Wolfman
just break the law and probably drive a Dragula.
Exactly. The part where the Wolfman's claws are going through his shoes. His question was, "What's going to happen to the man's shoes?" He was very concerned about that. But you know what? Besides that, all the action stuff he was very engaged in. I told him just wait for it. Just wait for it because he's 4. He's very impatient. This is the YouTube generation we're living in. But he really enjoyed himself. So he's 4. His name is Austin. He loved it, man. So.
Plus, I connected with Horace because they're like, "Hey, fat kid, good job. My name is Horace," and he cocks the shotgun. He's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
Sure.
shoot that kid from the Wonder Years.
Savage.
Where does it belong rank wise? How high does the Monster Squad climb?
Top 5.
Controversially, I was going to say 5.
Yeah, I'd say 5 also.
So we're saying above The Thing, but Trick or Treat would be the superior gateway horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
All right, I'm with it. Moving on. Jerry, what you got for us?
Okay. You can hear me, right?
Yes. You're good.
Okay, cool. Fine. I had malfunction. This is really hard, but and it's kind of a hard choice, but I wanted to throw in Sinister. I think it's highly underrated. I think it's a good one to kind of get people into kind of a haunted house style movie. But at this point, I feel like people have already seen The Conjuring, but maybe they weren't sold on The Conjuring and they wanted something that was like more evil, but like, because Sinister really unnerved me. Ethan Hawke's acting in it's fantastic. The footage that you get to see is really well done as for what he finds on those reels of film. So I think it's a good one in the sense of being of like, okay, look, watch Sinister, watch, how well directed, how well made, and it's got your jump scares, it's got your kind of supernatural, and it's got your true crime. It kind of has dabbles in everything, and I feel like it's just an easy pitch to someone to be like, okay, you know what? I really like these jump scares. What else do you got?
Yeah, it's 2/3 of a really good movie.
I think that's
at the ending either.
I feel that way about so many of those like James Wan and James Wan produced movies. All of them are 2/3 of a good movie. I do think Sinister is like, of those, Sinister is probably my favorite. Because it does get a little nasty and so forth.
Yeah, well, it starts with a fucking hanging.
Look, I mean, what doesn't? Am I right? And,
yeah.
I don't think we need to be saying that, Bo.
I think Sinister is I think it's a good representative of that kind of jump scare based film that is very popular right now.
I can see that. Plus, it's got Vincent D'Onofrio in a cameo, uncredited.
Man, yeah. Why is there not more D'Onofrio in every movie? I like just have him webcam into every film just for 5 minutes, and I'm a happy guy.
Yeah.
Speaking of national treasures,
as his character from The Cell,
shows up with the hair horns.
Oh man, it's not horror. One of my favorite recent D'Onofrio's is the character he plays in the Magnificent Seven remake. He's all bearded and tomahawky and killing people. It's spectacular,
He's you, Gary.
I do appreciate a good beard. He wears it well.
So, how do we feel about Sinister? Where does it belong on the list in terms of gateway horror? Is it
9?
Well, I think Jerry's absolutely right in that the ghosty, creepy kind of vibe isn't represented here, but neither is the does it get to you like on a deep emotional scary kind of level, because most of these are like monstery type films and they might have some gross bits, but Sinister really unnerved me as well, up to the point it loses me. It's almost a perfect film. And if somebody's gateway is nothing scares me anymore, I ride motorcycles, I ride roller coasters, I'm not scared of anything, you put a movie on and it makes them feel fear, in that kind of exhilarating kind of way. Just how some of us love horror. That's the one on the list that does that. So I think it needs to be certainly higher up in my book.
What are you thinking? Number 6?
Ooh. Yeah, I'd put it above The Thing. I think.
I'm good with number 6. Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with it. Like yeah, I think Boz kind of came in and really kind of knocked that one out of the park there as for why it should be higher on the list.
Yeah, like I have the problem with the ending too. That's my major problem with the movie, but I think it's better the reputation than a lot of the James Wan movies because it does have those creepy moments, like you said, and that keep you glued until the ending. Where but I still think it's a good representation of that genre.
Weirdly, with Sinister though, like there are so many, like it's a thing in horror, and that's why there are so many 3-star films because it's either love or hate.
Yeah.
So many of them shit the bed with the ending, and they don't get the ending right. I do not have a problem with the ending of Sinister. The beginning of the last third. I'm not going to get into details in case people haven't seen it, but it's that little bit where they just show us too much, where they spoil it. I could probably re-edit that movie to my own preferences and enjoy it a lot more just by cutting a couple of scenes, and it's damn near perfect.
I think
the Boz cut release #release the Boz cut of Sinister.
It's like the Schneider cut, just not as long. Yeah,
it's this one's shorter. It's the anti-Snyder cut.
He made like the greatest story ever told, fucking of superhero movies.
4.5. What in the hell are we doing? Anyway.
Hey, look, I know something about the Schneider cut, which makes it worth watching because there's an awesome guy who's a fantastic narrator of books. If any of you know who Scott Sigler is, he narrates most of his books now.
Yeah.
Ray Parks. Not Ray Parks. Ray Porter. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might be. I'm shit with names. It's a thing. But he actually is the voice of Darkseid in that movie, and all of his lines were cut from the original theatrical release, and they put them all back in the Schneider cut. So I just want to watch it for that because I want to hear what he's going to say.
I'm not sure I'm convinced. That's a long time. That's a long movie. That's like more than a Lawrence of Arabia.
I'll just take a week vacation from work and watch it one time.
Right. I think it's gonna be one of those things where like I turn it on, I watch it in like 36-minute chunks. Is probably.
I won't lie though. It does look better than that fucking actual Justice League movie that came out with what I see.
Look, we can have a whole different list about the problems with some of those DC movies. But anyway.
Yeah, true that.
Moving on, I believe we are now at speaking of Boz. I believe we are now to your selection for the list of legends.
Now, you see, this is going to make a lot of people groan. And unfortunately, because of things I've said for many years now on podcasts, I am contractually obliged that if you are making a list that includes any horror films, this film has to be represented and on the list, or the world is not correct. Because to my mind, is the best horror movie ever made. And that, of course, is Deathgasm. Write it in all capitals, please, because lowercase is for pussies.
All right. Deathgasm.
Yep.
Great date movie.
I'm gonna say no. I think that pretty much speaks my mind on that movie.
Fair enough. I think.
Hey, wait for metal fans. That's all I'm saying. If you're trying to get a metal fan to watch horror, that's the movie you need.
Yeah.
90% of metal fans already watch horror.
Oh, I could. Well,
I think
maybe
Deathgasm
60
is kind of a delight. Like
what Jerry said, yes.
It's a very, like, yes, there is the metal aspect of it, but it's also deeply silly in a way that I really respect. Like it is the modern equivalent of like an Evil Dead 2 or something, where it does get gory, it does certainly traffic in all the horror tropes, but it is doing so with a gleeful sense of anarchy and so forth. I like that pick. I think that's a good pick.
It also represents the New Zealand comedy horror which is such a thing now. I think.
You're right. The Black Sheep and 100 Bloody Acres and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Yeah, which is great. I like. Man, New Zealand just seems to be a paradise that the rest of the world doesn't deserve.
Yeah.
Like Taika Waititi is from New Zealand, but again, just we don't deserve it. Anyway, I don't know. How's it ever? I know Jerry is not a fan of Deathgasm. What? How do you guys?
I love it, but I don't know where to put it on the list. To be honest with you, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number
I
one,
mean-
of course.
I guess above Versus, but under Frankenweenie.
I would go. I would personally. I would probably put it at like number 11. I think probably 13 is where it lands on this list, where it's maybe above Frankenweenie but below Fido, or is it better than Fido?
I mean, I like it better than Fido.
Like maybe. Yeah.
Like, how about that? Like, is it better? Is it better than Creepshow?
No, I mean,
No, it's not.
no, because I just don't think like. I mean, it's more modern, so it may play better with a person in 2021.
Yeah.
But like, it's not what I want to show someone to get them in. I'd rather show them Creepshow to try to get them into horror than to show them Deathgasm. Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's watch Deathgasm, and then after that, we'll watch a concert by Mayhem. Like, I'm not getting laid that night. Thanks, boss.
Yeah. Well. you
Yeah,
know.
but by the same argument, how many people in Creepshow are murdered with a dildo? Come on, like. Yeah.
Okay. But Fluffy murdered a dildo in the crate.
I mean, metaphorically, sure, but
Yes.
I think we're talking about literal sex toys.
Well, Deathgasm does not beat Ed Harris's dance moves.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Oh.
Or
Creepshow has the greatest actor of all time in it.
Hal Holbrook.
No.
Oh,
Stephen King,
No.
Spelunken?
What is wrong with you people?
Leslie Nielsen.
Ted Danson.
No. Why are you all naming these wrong answers?
Ed Harris.
I'm done with you.
Who's the greatest actor of all time?
Tom motherfucking Atkins.
Of course.
Oh, he's only in the movie for 5 seconds. That's why.
Okay. Tom Atkins being inside you for 5 seconds is probably going to be the best 5 seconds of your life.
No.
That's what God made fathers for him.
Tom
I just
Atkins
love the
may
fact
be
Jerry said the
pregnant.
name right. He
Yeah.
said it right. That's
Yeah.
the main thing.
Is it better than horny Fritz Weaver though in that movie? I don't know. It's just that
Yeah. At any rate, so I think it lands at number 12. I think that is respectable for Deathgasm.
I can live with it.
Gary.
well, it was
let's-
mentioned in my number 8. Yeah, I think it goes for both things, kids and adults. You can try out both of them because there's no rape like there is in the first movie. Evil Dead 2 is my number 8, and that's not even a good ranking. You know, I'm putting it on the list to see where you guys put it. It speaks for itself, I think.
All
Big
right,
love
so
for that movie.
Gary just dropping the mic. Evil Dead 2. What do you think?
Who that?
It is the mixture of like the first Evil Dead and the Army of Darkness. It's like the in the middle movie. I could see it being a good for accessibility for that franchise. Either way, you know what I mean. That's the thing.
That's the one I would show somebody first. Let's put it that way.
Mm.
Over
Yeah.
over any other ones.
I'm just trying to think of where I would want it on this list because the slapstick might not work for someone. They might go, "Why is this dude just such a terrible actor?" And just like, no, you don't get it. You know,
Mm.
he explained, and if Chins could kill, like, I just don't know if that movie plays to an audience who doesn't understand it going in. So I'm having a hard time. Like, I guess it would be above.
Unless you show it to like a
Demons?
12-year-old, because then they don't care about the acting at that point, Jerry.
Yeah, I guess so. I just think it may be a little too slapstick to be someone's introduction to horror.
Yeah, it's like a mid-tier introduction.
It's all about that chainsaw hand.
I mean, I look. I gotta say, him. This is the Army of Darkness thing, but him leaping into the air to catch the chainsaw with his stump. It's just one of those things I think of every now and again when I need to be happy. So I know we're talking about Evil Dead 2 and not Army of Darkness, but if we're going to talk about Chainsaw Hands, I will never stop loving that moment. But the groovy moment is great too. Like this is one of those personal things for me where I'm like, look, Evil Dead 2 was one of those movies I saw when I was a kid that absolutely lit the fire for me. But you know, I'm a grandpa.
I can see this working for like mid-tier kids, you know what I mean, like teenagers and even like lower, like poor teenager kids too. You know, it still has like that gore and stuff in it, which might scare a few other kids, but I can see it getting like a little bit older kids into horror, and it could work for some adults too that grew up with like Three Stooges and shit like that, because you know that's what Raimi is. I think it deserves a place on the list.
You get your 15-year-old cousin high, and this is what you put on.
Exactly.
I think that's pretty much my introduction. That age. Yes, that's when I saw it.
I mean, I saw the first Evil Dead when I was in 5th grade. So, like, when I got around to watching Evil Dead 2 a few years later, I didn't really care for it because I had already seen the first Evil Dead. But I wasn't smoking weed, but I could see you getting your 15-year-old cousin high and watching this, and they're being like, "This is fucking great." And then next you show them like Deathgasm,
and then Pink Floyd The Wall.
Yeah, Pink Floyd The Wall, then Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon with Wizard of Oz after that, and then you're going
Return to Oz
jail afterwards.
Yeah, it's hard for me to kind of divorce myself from this one. Like, where do you guys feel like this falls? Is this something that is?
I mean, do you put it up? You got to put it above Deathgasm, I guess.
Is it? I mean, all right. Let's inch it up the list then. Let's start above Deathgasm. Anybody think it doesn't belong above Deathgasm?
I think it belongs. Go ahead.
Sorry, Jerry initially said above Demons, and I'd probably say there because as Gateway goes, it's probably a bit below Coraline in accessibility. Can I just say, like, if you ever thought about Evil Dead 2 and you've just freshly severed your own hand and you have a stump, and then you lace one of the most vibrating machines in the world to it, and then pull it against your chest to start it, and then rev it up. Can you imagine the pain of that vibration and then hitting something with it? Yeah, that's where my brain goes sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think under Coraline, that's right.
Yeah.
It was either this or Idle Hands, guys, and Idle Hands almost made this list.
And that brings in the weed element.
Right. It could be one of the listeners. You never know.
All right, I want to throw in a couple that came out of chat, and also that I feel like need to be discussed. If you are watching this from chat, go ahead and throw your entries in. I'm going to get mine in. My final one in, and then we're gonna take some from the group. My gateway horror that I would recommend, Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th, not the terrible remake, but the OG Friday the 13th. I think it's a movie that is, again, it's kind of quaint by modern standards, but it's also incredibly representative of a genre. And
slasher genre,
right? Yeah, or a subgenre, I suppose. I just think it's one of those movies that's sort of like, try this out. This is fairly tame by modern standards, but if you like this, I've got about 70 other movies that I think you're gonna like.
You know what's gonna be funny about that first watch with someone is it's over and they go, "So wait, where was Jason? I didn't see a hockey mask at all."
No, what? Fucking Kevin Bacon was in this movie. That's a hot one too.
Do people still know who Kevin Bacon is? That still
sure, yeah.
I think this is a good choice because, like, if you chose Halloween, it's too slow. If you chose some of the later big name slashers, it's like Nightmare on Elm Street. It's too goofy. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is probably too gritty. Halloween is kind of that good muffin that you're gonna give them, and they're gonna be like, "This is pretty good. I would like other bread products, please."
This is exactly what I'm thinking, Jerry. The muffin talk is exactly right. I think it is all about delivering hot, fresh, buttered muffins of Friday the 13th to people.
Wait, what kind of muffins are you eating that you put butter on them?
I'm sorry,
Was
I
it-
just skipped lunch.
Oh, I mean, I haven't eaten today either, so I understand that. But like, I was thinking like a chocolate chip
Plus,
muffin, and there's no butter on that.
Plus, Friday the 13th has the best fucking doomsayer of all time.
Crazy
Crazy
Ralph is right. Again, that is just gospel. It's a death cuss.
I can add a slightly different perspective on this because, so horror fan from, let's say, I don't know, 9-10 years old, I guess. And I saw this first probably 8 or 9 years ago in a Friday the 13th marathon session on Friday the 13th. And that was the first time I'd ever seen the first movie. And I was bitterly disappointed.
Oh,
but
wow.
that's coming from the perspective of a fairly extreme modern horror fan.
Uh-huh.
So but it's the age of it and the pacing of it and stuff like that. And I'm just wondering, to someone now trying to get them into horror, how effective it would be. It's not to take away anything that it did. And I think if I'd seen that when I was way younger, would have had a much bigger impact. But coming to it later, it certainly didn't.
I kind of see that. I'll go ahead, Gary.
I said I don't love the film, and I think there's some of Savini's most sloppiest work. But I would push The Burning on somebody before I push Friday 13th on somebody.
Disagree.
In my opinion. Yeah, well,
No, The Burning
It's just
has some awful effects though. That whole raft scene, those effects do not hold up.
Derek, how do you feel about Friday the 13th here?
I can see what Boz is saying too, though, about like show, because there's a lot of build up. There's getting to know the characters, and some like teen of the modern crowds like, what the hell's going on? I want to see a kill. What's with this music going? I don't like it. I can see that happening.
And also we get the thing with Kevin Bacon now, and they're like, well, hold on, why is the guy there advertising mobile phone networks? Because that's what he does here now.
Yeah.
So.
He did do that.
What all right, so where do we think it falls on the list? Is it dead bottom? Does it where does it climb? Is it above Frankenweenie?
I don't think it is.
Is it above Versus?
I think it's above Versus.
You think
It's above her. I would probably show it over everything 10 and under. Like I would show it before I showed someone Evil Dead 2, probably, definitely before Demons. I think it plays faster than does it play faster than Creepshow, since Creepshow is multi-part?
I mean, like Friday the 13th is a great movie to get people into a specific kind of horror movie, but I think, like, even as my pick, I'm like, I'd probably put it above Frankenweenie, but
I'd put it above Deathgasm.
Definitely doesn't play better than Demons.
No. I agree with that.
Above Fido?
I think it belongs above Fido in my head.
above Deathgasm for me too. I mean, I don't think it's the best representation of what the slasher movie can be, because like you guys said, when you put a newbie on this when they watch it and they say, so we get Jason in the next one. That's what they're thinking when they see this old lady killing people. It's she done all this apparently, but yeah, I think above the Deathgasm though for sure.
Anybody else saying it's above Deathgasm?
Nope.
Yeah, I'd say it's above Deathgasm.
Yeah, all right.
I think you hit a wider audience than metal fans who already have seen it.
I think it's kind of a 3-2 scenario, because I'm of the mind too. I'm like, I'd probably recommend Deathgasm first. It's a little bit more fun, and a little bit more modern. It feels more. There's a more modern sensibility about Deathgasm than there is about Friday the 13th, I think.
Ale Satin.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for the scene alone where you kind of get that album cover moment is very, very funny. And anyway, I could go on about Deathgasm. Anyway, so let's take a couple from our chat here. Who did we lose? We lost
Derek.
Derek. All right, let's see if we can get him back.
Can I suggest one I saw in the chat earlier? It's gone off the screen now, but someone suggested Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
I have that on my list as well. So
yeah.
So let's go to some that we have seen in the chat.
Just on principle, we cannot choose Gremlins to piss Scott off. I just want to remind everyone of that.
Yep, that's how you gotta do it.
Look. Here's what I will say about this. I feel like we kind of have to at least address Gremlins, because it's come up like 3 or 4 times. Now, and I don't.
But
think
it's only by Scott. Scott's the only one who's saying it.
But I think,
Don't be fooled.
all right.
He's using alt accounts.
We will. Hey, there's Derek back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I just vanished. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, that was strange. So bear with me a second. You guys change position on me, but that's okay. I can
Anyone
fix
that truly-
on the fly.
Anyone that truly knows Scott knows that he loves Gremlins too. Oh, so much more, and he is correct in that notion. So there you go.
I think it's what you're after, but I mean I don't disagree with you, but that's a real. What is it that you're coming to this movie for?
I'm coming for a Joe Dante film, and I got that in Gremlins too. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
You know.
Here's an argument for that though. Gremlins is a horror film. Gremlins 2 is not a horror film. It's a kids movie.
I would kind of agree with that. It's more of a Looney Tunes cartoon than it is a horror movie.
But
We're not.
what
Hey,
movie?
look, Tucker and Dale versus Evil came from chat. I think that is a great selection. I've seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil a number of times. I know plenty of people who do not watch horror movies that have been recommended that movie and loved it.
Yeah, I think horror comedies are always going to be an easy, get someone into horror. Like, it's always an easier pitch.
And I mean, it's still incredibly gruesome. There is still it is playing with horror tropes. I think it works just fine if you're a fan of the genre. But if you've never seen a horror movie, I think it totally works, and it has kind of a nice little love story at the center of it and all that. I love Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I think it's a great movie. I think it's a great movie to start people on horror with, because it's really a great big puppy dog of a movie that just wants you to love it, and it wants to love you.
And make you pancakes,
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it too. It actually has like a lot of cool meta themes to it that I really like, especially for the subgenres it's making fun of. Especially like those backwoods hillbilly exploitation type of horror movies that came out during the Deliverance and shit like that. So I like that aspect about it, and I like that fucking wood chipper scene's fucking great.
Yes.
Man, when they come to that realization, or their theory that they have run afoul of a suicide cult, and they're just like, we can't stop them. All these kids just run into our property and kill themselves. It's so fucking funny. That's a wonderful movie.
In terms of lead casting, I mean, those two, they're just perfect in those roles, and they play off each other so damn well. In fact, the I can never remember his damn name. It was Reaper that made him famous, which I fucking loved.
Tyler Labine,
yeah. He's just got a new series called Deadbeat, where he plays a medium who sees dead people around and stuff. It's very silly, but it's just more of him, and I love watching him, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah,
we'll check it out.
All right, I think we all enjoyed the Tucker and Dale. But where does it belong on this list? I think it kind of rings pretty high.
Yeah, I do.
I definitely agree with that.
Is it above Cabin in the Woods though? Because it's really similar setting, kind of tropey thing.
I mean, let's start at number 10. Is it a top 10 film? Is it above Evil Dead 2?
It's number 6 in
So far,
me.
Yeah, I would say at the highest I could put it is number 4, but I think I would be more comfortable at a 6 or a 7.
Below, is it a better or worse gateway horror film than The Monster Squad?
Well, I don't know. Monster Squad does have that
What do you show to someone after you showed them Tucker and Dale versus Evil versus after Monster Squad? What do you show them?
Well, I mean, I think Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's like, well, here's Deliverance, here's Wrong Turn, here's any
Well, you're just gonna
number
fuck them
of-
up.
Well, yeah, but that's again, we're talking about the gateway. Like, this is the first hit you get, and then you have to get the dirty stomped on shit.
Yeah, but
Yes, that then everything else on the list, surely.
Yeah,
With Monster Squad, you show kids the Universal monster movies, which are timeless with that age, and they work
That-
well with kids too.
I do think I reckon if you showed a kid now any of the Universal monster movies, including Dracula 2000, which was supposed to kick off the new series of them, they would just like fall asleep, walk off, or just be sitting there on their phone. like that.
I agree with you with
That's
Dracula
why- Yeah.
2000. Well, it depends on the kid. I wouldn't act. I take phones away from kids when they watch movies because I don't deal with that shit.
I
Dracula Untold. Sorry, not 2000.
yeah,
Wrong movie.
I would probably go. Yeah, right. Like, even if you're showing them Universal movies, you kind of have to go straight to like Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Mm.
And it's like that's the closest, but yeah, watching like the OG Bela Lugosi Dracula, like I get fucking bored in that movie, and it's short as hell. And
That's
like
why
I
they have the
respect
special
it, but-
feature with the Philip Glass soundtrack.
Right,
Right.
right. So I think. I
That's the
mean,
way I watched the first time.
let me just float this idea. Let me just say this: Tucker and Dale versus Evil, the number 5 best gateway movie, and it's right below Trick or Treat.
I think
good
it's
with that.
more accessible, so I guess.
And anybody else have an argument
Yeah.
against? I mean, come on.
Switch them. Yeah, it is. It belongs there.
It's
Yeah.
Tucker and Dale. All right.
I mean, I love the movie, so I have no problem with it being number 5.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got 2 to go, and I've got 2 that I saw in chat. One of them may or may not be Gremlins. We may change. It depends on how much we want to screw with Scott. Another one that I feel like is immediately mentioned when you talk about gateway horror movies is in fact the movie The Gate. And
On my list.
yeah, right. Like this
Yeah.
it was a movie that was kind of on my list as well.
Is that just because of the clever play on words involved, or?
It's not that reason. But I feel like it's just one of those movies that I feel like is kind of, it's just got to be in the discussion. You know, there are so many people that were like, man, The Gate, I thought it was going to be kind of a kid's adventure movie, but then it fucked me up.
In terms of like some weird, crazy cosmic Lovecraftian horror craziness.
And yeah, then all of a sudden everyone's dying, you know? Yeah, it's
Steven Dorff's growing an eyeball out of his fucking hand. It's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean the sister dies and all that stuff.
It's nuts.
It's high on my list, so I'll tell you why. And it's kind of more of a personal reason. It's the first horror film I ever saw, and I was a bitch and a half when it came to horror films back then. And I sat down, I watched it. And, you know, I was probably like 9, which is like the perfect age where it hits you. You know, kids doing stuff, of course. And the little I love Ray Harryhausen, so the little stop motion guys really do it for me. And the way they filmed it, if you listen to the commentaries and stuff and read into it, they filmed that at like no money. It looks spectacular even on Blu-ray. And I love the metalhead kid who does nothing now. He's even hard to find, like talk to. And
Yeah.
it's just it's wild. And that guy's made some pretty wild flicks too. I mean, I'm fond of The Gate 2 as well. It's subpar compared to the original, but it's a nice companion piece.
Yeah. I
The
really
Gate is-
like,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I really like I Madman from that director who did The Gate. It's one
Yeah.
that grew on me over the years. I really dig that one. And it's hilarious that he did Mansquito for Sci-Fi Channel.
Man,
Really?
Steel and,
Really? That's a thing.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
That's
Spiders 3D, I think he made too.
it's like up there with Birdemic, then, is it?
yeah, that's
Right.
pretty good.
But I love The Gate though. It deserves some love. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I
My
agree.
problem with this, I'm going to say right now, I'm not going to put a dog in the fight for where it sits on the list, simply because it's easily over 20 years since I saw that movie. I wasn't paying the most amount of attention when I did see it. And my most recent recollection of it was listening to one of you guys do a podcast about it. I can't remember who it was. So the stuff you're saying like rings a bell. I'm thinking, no, that's because I heard about it on the podcast. So I can't comment, and it really deserves a rewatch. So it's going on my list. So I'm out.
All right.
Shark Tank.
Let's talk about where it belongs on the list, though.
Herring's back.
Yep, I see that. We are fixing some names.
Yeah, I don't know what in the world happened. My internet was just, I guess, very upset at the choices you people have made.
That'll happen. That'll happen.
Welcome to my life. Bad choices.
So we are debating the gate here, Jerry. And the question is at this point, where of course it belongs on our list. It is I think it's one of those, like, one of the sneakiest picks where it seems pretty friendly for the first half, and then it gets fucking mean.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of The Gate. I think it's an okay movie, and I know it's one that always gets thrown around in movies to kind of like work in for kids. But I've watched The Gate with a kid before, and they don't dig it. It's a little too slow. I think the problem is a lot of parents try to get kids to watch horror movies, and they pick these 80s horror movies and don't realize it doesn't play as well. I don't think The Gate plays as well when you're trying to show an older person to get them into horror movies. So it's in a very weird space. I'm not sure where I would put it.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think that we have to address it, just because when you talk about gateway horror movies, people are always like, The Gate? Have you seen The Gate? Have you talked about The Gate? What about The Gate? I kind of agree. I think it's a tough sell. I think it's really interesting and weird and disturbing. I think it's a tough movie to recommend.
I agree. I don't understand why people always push The Gate. It just it doesn't.
Sorry.
Yeah, I get it.
But I also think, like I've pointed out many times, the problem with making this list as horror fans is we push things that we saw as younger horror fans, or when we were just getting into horror, and we need to realize that doesn't mean it's going to play with a new modern audience in the same way.
Jerry, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna do this out of pure spite, really. We have one selection left. We've taken a couple from the chat.
You motherfucker.
How about you supply our final film, Jerry? What is the last film?
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry, I didn't move The Gate. I apologize.
I was going to say, is it staying there?
I'll give you a minute to prepare. But where does The Gate fall? Where should we put this thing?
It's not in the top 10, but it's definitely in like somewhere in the 20.
What about number 17 over Frankenweenie, but below Fido? I
can live with that.
Anybody think it's better than Fido?
That's fair.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So there it is, Jerry. What is the final? It's up to you to decide. Is Versus the worst gateway horror film of all time? Because that is what we're on the cusp of saying with this list.
Okay, so there's one movie that I really wanted to put on this list, but I thought it's too old. It doesn't work. But then I was like, it's not that old though. Not in the scheme of what we've picked.
Mm-hmm.
So and I'm not even that big of a fan of this movie, but I literally asked someone who's not into horror, what movie did you watch that made you think maybe I'd watch more horror movies?
Mm-hmm.
And they said the American remake of The Ring.
Okay. All right.
So
that is from the mouth of someone who does not watch horror movies, but that is the movie that made them watch a couple of more. And I was like, okay, so not only could this get more people into horror movies, it could get them more into Japanese horror, it could get them more into ghost horror. The Ring, it could even lead them into fucking tech horror
Yes.
or internet
Uh-huh.
horror. So I think the Ring remake could probably still work even in 2021. Even though we have to explain what a VHS tape is, it's fine.
Fair enough. Okay, I like this pick. I think The Ring is really scary. I think it was really popular at the time. I think a lot of people saw it. What do you guys think?
That's a strong one for me, again, because I feel that the ghosty horror stuff is a little underrepresented here. And that film got to me, that and the Grudge remake, both of them actually, really actually got to me, which takes some doing.
Yeah, I like The Ring a lot. I like the original more though, but that's because I seen it before. But I think it's the remake is a more gateway one because it could, like Jerry said, it could get more people into it. Like, oh, this is a remake of an Asian movie, and then gets people into the Asian one, and bam, you start into a different path there.
Yeah, and next thing you know, they're watching Tomie and listening to Hero Hero Ghost Show, and their life is ruined.
Yeah,
Like me.
God willing.
And then they watch Zombie Ass, Toilet of the Undead, and their life is
Yes.
Most important, zombie ass. Yes.
We could just go with Tomie Unlimited, which is from the director of Zombie Ass, and go into a wild, right, Bo?
Gucci is a crazy man, and I love him for it.
Yes.
That whole kind of cadre of filmmakers like Gucci and Nishimura and who am I? There's a third one. Noboru Gucci, Yoshiro Nishimura, somebody else I'm leaving out that are kind
This
of
is shit. This is a shitload of them.
There
this
are,
point.
yeah. I kind of those are the guys who all worked on each other's movies starting out though. Like one person would do the effects and the other person would direct, and they'd kind of trade. At any rate, again, totally different.
I know.
list.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
I'm sure we will assemble a panel to talk about the best Japanese splatter movies of all time.
And if I'm not
yes.
on that panel, Bo,
We'll
It's
see.
boycott. If you get one of the some people that we know that don't even like those type of movies, like, why am I not on this?
Right.
What the fuck?
All right. So, but it is important that we complete our list here. The final ranking we will do is where does The Ring fall on this
Top 10.
list?
Top 10.
it's top 10. I would say I could easily put it at number 8. I think it's an easier way to get people to watch horror than The Thing is at this point.
All right.
But Sinister may work a little better since it's newer.
Well, all right. Let's do it this way. Better than the original Night of the Living Dead.
For this list, yes.
I think so.
All
For
right.
this list, yes, not a better movie in my opinion, but it's definitely better for the list.
Okay. All right. That seems like a majority. What about The Thing? Better or worse than The Thing?
I think it plays better than The Thing when it comes to getting someone into horror.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, because The Thing just might scare them away for life. Fuck this, I'm never watching another one.
I think it's better than Sinister though, as far as the things we talked about.
All right. So let's just move it above Sinister then and say, is it better than The Monster Squad? Where does
I think it's going to get more people into horror movies than The Monster Squad is, since apparently it was pointed out that only that no one's really going to enjoy watching a bunch of the Universal classics at this point in their life
Yeah.
until they get further into horror and want to know the foundation.
I would be
history.
happy with it. I would be happy with it at number 6.
All right. With
Above
the
The Monster
bullet,
Squad.
it's at number 6. Anybody got to make the argument that The Ring is better than Tucker and Dale versus Evil as a gateway horror film?
I don't think it's more accessible because it's going to immediately eliminate a certain amount of people because they're like, oh, I don't like ghosty stuff. And that's
Yeah, that's true.
Anybody else? Any final bids before we lock The Ring at number 6?
I want it to be above Tucker and Dale versus Evil because, like, I almost feel like Tucker and Dale versus Evil is a little cheaty because it's just so fucking funny that is someone going to watch it and watch more horror? Or they're just going to be like, "Yep, I love comedies."
Yeah.
Mm.
I kind of like it at 6 as well.
All right, I'll concede 6. 6 is good.
Okay, well then, ladies and gentlemen, the list that this panel and our faithful viewers in chat have assembled goes like this, starting from the top. The best movie, the best gateway horror movie, according to our panel and therefore the law, An American Werewolf in London. Second
I
best.
disagree with that.
Second best, Cabin in the Woods. Third, Tragedy Girls. Fourth, Trick or Treat. Fifth, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Sixth, the U.S. remake of The Ring. 7, The Monster Squad. 8, Sinister. 9, The Thing, 1982, of course. Number 10, Night of the Living Dead. Number 11, Coraline. Number 12, Evil Dead 2. Number 13, Demons. Number 14, Creepshow. Number 15, Deathgasm. Deathgasm. The 5 worst gateway horror movies. Friday the 13th at number 16. Fido at number 17. The Gate at number 18. Frankenweenie at number 19. And your worst gateway horror film of all time is Versus. There is our list. There is no other, ladies and gentlemen. Anytime someone asks you now what the best gateway horror movies are, you don't have to think about it. You direct them right here. And speaking of directing you right here, let's go around the horn one time. Again, clockwise from me on my screen. Derek, thank you for being here. Where can people find more of you?
You can find me at Cinema Attack, No More Room in Hell, and the They're Here podcast. Those are all on the Dark Discussions Network. And as always, you can find me under the Kill the Cast banner of Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space, which you can find on Legion podcast. And check that show out. It'll be returning soon, where we're going to be bringing you those visions from Monsterland.
Nice. Boz, well, again, thank you for being here. When you are not regularly syncing other podcasts, is there anything that you would like to shamelessly promote?
I just did you resurrected one, which is quite funny. So like my start in podcasting was a silly little show called Here Goes Nothing. And I've started a feed on Podbean called Here Goes Nothing Regurgitated. And we're posting up some old shows. And then sort of weirdly out of nowhere, we posted a brand new one last week. We're not making any promises to whether there'll be any more, but there might be. So that's on Podbean if you want to check that out.
Awesome.
Other than that, currently, like I say, we've slit the throat of a little pot of horrors, and this is Bo showing mercy on me and allowing me to still talk horror occasionally by letting me be on this panel show. So thank you. Apart from that, I do a fitness-based podcast, believe it or not, which is called Better Hit the Mat, BTTR Hit the Mat podcast, which you can find on YouTube. That's the best place to see it, or all good pod providers. And it's based around a weird thing called DDP Yoga, but you can talk to me about that online if you wish.
Excellent. Gary, where can people find you, and thank you for doing this?
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very sad I didn't mention Twilight Zone the movie, but that's more of a personal choice than anything else.
Enough.
Yeah.
There is no
Very-
more late entry, sir. Don't
very
try to
sad.
sneak
Very
one in under
sad.
the wire like a carpetbagger.
Very sad. But yeah, you can find me on the Cinebeef podcast on these are all on Legion. Two Drink Minimum Commentaries is coming back. I promise people it's coming back. I have shows planned. It's the execution that's the problem. Yeah, other stuff. If I could chew a certain person's arm off to join me for this project I'm dreaming about. So bring more horror to the Cinebeef feed for you people to listen to, because this is a horror podcast network after all. I know you don't mind me talking about bullshit on my show, just like putting two weird films together, Bo, but I want to contribute more horror to the horror podcasting network.
Fair
But
enough.
So I'm working at that. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate that, and I will spout off at the mouth whenever I want to, Bo Ransdell, man. Love you though, brother.
All right. The same goes. Jerry, thank you again for helping us shape our list and providing our final film. Where can people find more out of you?
Well, I am Kill the Cast, Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space, Atomic Age, Saucer, Cass, Jerry Hates Action, a few other ones that I do randomly. And I'm, of course, on Legion, so go look there. But I am going to start a new podcast. Y'all are welcome to join me, called Fuck You, Scott. There's no Gremlins on the list.
I'll be on that show.
So, yeah.
Oh, we love you,
like,
Scott.
there are gonna be people who complain about Gremlins not being here, but there's part of me that really loves the fact that we were just like, nah, we're just not even gonna talk about it.
When you said, all right, Jerry, here last week, I thought you were going to put Gremlins on there to fuck with me. And then when you're like, you get to pick, I was just like, oh, sweet, I get to stick it to Scott.
You know what's
You know what,
crazy? You know what's crazy? I'm kind of crazy that Jerry didn't push Tremors.
Yeah.
And
that was
on my
list.
original list, there were movies like Jaws and Tremors.
Yeah.
But like I said, I had to scrap that entire list because I had to rescope what we were doing here and play to a modern audience.
Yeah.
And
I get
y'all just picking on Scott. His co-hosts don't do that enough, punching him in his dick about his drama club and stuff.
Well,
Well, they
Just
here's the thing. I'm Scott's boss, so I get to do this whenever I want. It's in the contract I made him
All
sign.
right,
fair enough.
Before we spend more time celebrating corporate abuse, let me just say a final thank you to all the folks who were fine enough to join us here on the panel. Thank you for those of you watching on whichever stream. Please subscribe to Legion Podcasts on whatever stream you are watching this. And if you would, jump over to legionpodcasts.com. There you can subscribe to all of the other shows individually. And also, if it's been a while since you dropped by, got a couple of new shows that I'll mention very quickly. In addition to the stuff you've heard here, there's a show called The Dread Familiar, which is kind of a scary story sort of podcast, an audio drama podcast that I think is quite good, as well as a new show from RJ McCready, the guy who does Bite Size Cinema, on all about kind of real world mysteries. Like the first one's on Roswell, and I'm campaigning for him to do something on Big Feats soon, because I like a show that gets to the bottom of things, and I want somebody to get to the bottom of a Bigfoot. So check those out over at legionpodcasts.com, as well as a bunch of other shows. You can subscribe there. Follow us on all the social media everywhere at Legion Podcasts. Thanks again to my host. Thank you for watching. That's it. We'll see you next month for a brand new list of legends. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye.